Good morning! I hope you are all feeling bright, refreshed and ready for today's event. Most likely you enjoyed the shower this morning. Well, did you actually enjoy it though? Probably not. Most likely you didn't even think about it. We are completely used to opening a tap and experiencing clean water. Nothing special about that, right? Actually, the best shower I ever had was after a week trekking in Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. A week without washing makes you really appreciate hot water and soap. We always appreciate things less when they are readily available, and we have become used to having lots of things readily available. Food, fuel, water, energy. But the reality is that these things are finite and running out, and we all should appreciate what we have and learn to use it more intelligently. Just like Mark Watney had to do in The Martian. Remember the movie? Matt Damon, playing Watney, finds himself marooned on planet Mars, a hostile environment and with hardly any resources. The only way to survive is by applying science and through the careful use and reuse of the resources he had. He improvises a garden using Martian soil fertilized with the crew's bio-waste. You can imagine, and this amongst other things. Is that where we are all going? We wonder, because we have reached an expiration date on the current linear economy system that throws valuable resources away. C-Voucher is all about presenting an alternative path for society, the circular economy, and to talk about it and show you what's being done about it in Europe today. We are all here today. So, good morning and welcome to Circular Economy PowWow, where you will meet the C-Voucher champions boosting European sustainability. This event is brought to you by C-Voucher, the first pan-European initiative adopting the concept of circular economy to redesign the value chains. My name is Helena Diaz-Fuentes, too complicated, just Helena is fine. And it is a pleasure to be hosting this event organized from Spain by Founding Box, a C-Voucher coordinator. As you may know, C-Voucher is managed by 13 partners from 6 different countries: Poland, France, Spain, Denmark, Romania, and Sweden. And it's focused on 5 verticals: agri-food, health, manufacturing, sea industry, and textile. It is also a community of circular economy enthusiasts, experts, and influencers. C-Voucher has supported 54 SMEs in the transition from linear value chains, the cradle to waste, towards circular model, cradle to cradle. The project supported European SMEs with a total value of 4.2 million euros and will offer 1.4 million direct vouchers to companies to be spent on technology implementation and 2.8 million in additional services. We are working towards bringing new value chains, disrupting archaic business models, and presenting new quality for people, companies, and the planet. And for this edition, we have a very powerful program prepared for you. Today, we will meet 15 of the best SMEs and startups that are boosting the European circular economy by combining design thinking and technology, with the support of C-Voucher in the transition, as we said, from linear value chains towards circular models. But before we dive into the program, let me inform you that you will be able to ask questions to our panelists and speakers, both today and tomorrow, through the chat you will find on your screens, through the Hopping platform. Don't miss this chance and send us your questions as of now, as we will gladly pass them time permitting. And you can also use Twitter to share comments on the event at #circulareconomy or #circulardesign or #fundingchampions. There you go, you have no excuses. So we start this year's edition with a keynote by one of the most esteemed and respected thinkers in the field of sustainability, environment and social governance. He has a PhD in economics from the University of London and is Professor of Resources and Environmental Policy at University College London, amongst many other milestones. He's going to outline the key policies to shift from a linear to a circular economy because, as he stated in a recent interview, and I quote, "There is no vaccine for climate change. Therefore, it is imperative that we act now." It is a pleasure to welcome Professor Paul Ekins. Professor, there you are. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Helena. All the better for hearing you speak in such positive and glowing terms, because indeed there is no vaccine for climate change and there's no vaccine against resource depletion either. We just have one planet, and at the moment we're not looking after it very well, and we need to change. So that's that's really the subject of my presentation today. I feel very honored to be talking to all your C-Voucher colleagues and circular economy champions, because I've been on the website, I've had a look. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. It's a wonderful idea and innovation for how to help people make the transition. But I noticed there are only 54 of them, and there are several million small businesses in Europe. So we've got a long way to go before it becomes the mainstream way in which everyone does business. And that's really what I'm going to talk about today, how we can get to that position. So
excellent, Professor, all yours. I'm going to let you the screen all by yourself. So we're looking forward to listening to you. See you in a
okay,
minute.
well, there we are. There's the front slide. And so thank you very much. I'm talking about now the policies to shift from a linear to a circular economy. I'm trying to shift with my little clicker now, but for reasons I don't understand, it's not moving, although it was when we did the test earlier. Thank you very much, Geordie, for helping me with that. So this is the summary. I'm going to talk about the requirements to move towards a circular economy. I think I'm probably talking mainly to producers at the moment, but of course, we need consumers and we need the waste management industry very much to help with these moves. And then I'm going to ask, well, how can we get there? What are the incentives that we need? And I'm going to talk about a brief policy innovation. I'm going to talk briefly about that in the hope that that will stimulate some questions. So next slide, please. So the first thing we need to understand is that the linear economy did not come about by accident. We are where we are because the linear economy is the logical and entirely predictable result of the incentives facing firms and households in their use of materials and products. And of course, through the C-Voucher scheme, you are trying to change those incentives with some success, but we can't change without changing the incentives. And at the moment, obviously, the C-Voucher scheme is only a very small intervention in the economy, and we have to do much more than that. And that despite all the fine rhetoric in favor of a circular economy at the European Union level in different countries, there is currently very little action to change these incentives. And so progress towards a circular economy is still very slow. In fact, it doesn't really show up in the data at all. Next slide, please. So I come to this subject partly at least from this report that was produced by the International Resource Panel of UNEP, which I'm a member of, and it was called Resource Efficiency and Potential and Economic Implications. And we looked in a lot of detail at the potential for resource efficiency, which is really now nearly always called a circular economy. And we found that there is substantial cost-effective opportunity for increased resource efficiency. And there's a big but, because markets will not achieve higher rates of resource efficiency by themselves. They are enormously important, and everyone in the C-Voucher scheme, I'm sure, is working through markets and making them work for them. But we need public policy, political will, and concerted action if we're really going to bend the curve from a linear economy curve to a circular economy curve. Next slide, please. So how are we going to do that? And I'm going to focus in three parts. I'm going to talk a little bit about the waste and the resource management focus. I'm going to talk a little bit about the consumer focus, and then on the next slide, we'll get on to the producer focus. And people have been working with these areas now for a long time. There's practically nothing new in this area, and you can find examples of good practice across different countries in the European Union and outside. We need to make it easier to recycle materials by differentiating between wastes and recyclables. And obviously, issues to do with the definition of wastes and byproducts are very important for that. We need to increase the quality of collected materials, collected recyclates through separate collections. And that was one of the actions, of course, in the Circular Economy Action Plan that was just recently completed. We need to create markets for recycled materials, and that's really important through product specifications and green public procurement, through standards and regulations. We need to ban the incineration of recyclables, and we need to facilitate industrial clusters through the process of industrial symbiosis. One of my most rewarding jobs over the last 10 years was for 5 years being chairman of the UK National Industrial Symbiosis Programme. And that showed me very, very clearly that a lot of what businesses currently throw away for other businesses would be resources, but they don't know about them. And the creation of an information system that puts people with things they want to get rid of in touch with people who want those things could make an enormous difference, both environmentally and economically. So that's the waste and resource management focus. It's an important agenda. And we can then move on to consumer focus, because obviously the waste and resource management industry gets its materials from consumers, whether they are households or businesses. And there we could require the separation of wastes in order to create recycling habits. We could provide facilities in buildings to make recycling easier. We could incentivize waste reduction and high quality separation by consumers through charging for the amount of waste that you produce, pay as you throw schemes. In the UK, you may or may not know that that is currently illegal. Local authorities are not allowed to charge for waste disposal on the basis of how much waste households produce. They may charge businesses, of course, but that's a business-to-business activity. But for households, the waste is collected by local authorities, and the local authorities are not allowed to charge. And from an economic point of view, of course, that's complete nonsense, because we don't have the incentives then to reduce waste and to separate into recyclables. And then there's a whole range of incentive schemes, such as deposit refund schemes, which are implemented in many European countries very successfully and can achieve recycling rates of over 90%. But both those focuses on the waste and resource management industry and on consumers, they encourage better waste management and more recycling, but they don't encourage waste prevention. And as I'm sure you all know, waste prevention is at the top of the waste hierarchy. Next slide, please. So how are we going to prevent waste? And there we have to focus right down on the producers and the products that they make. And again, there are all sorts of things that we can and need to do. We can increase the time that material products deliver their service before becoming wastes, and the whole product durability agenda. We can reduce the quantity of materials required to deliver a particular service, and that's light weighting, as it's called. And again, that's very well established in many fields, from automotives through to packaging. We can increase the amount of information available about what materials are in products and where they are. And there we've got using information technology to track through the supply chains what materials are in products through product passports. And of course, that's a relatively new possibility given the advances in information technology. We can reduce the use of energy and materials required both to produce a product and in its use phase. And we come there to the enormous importance of eco-design and efficiency regulations. On the design front, there are calculations that suggest that 80% of the environmental impact of a product is built in at the design stage. So once it's been designed, you can only then, through various other measures, save about 20% of its impact. And of course, we can reduce the use of materials that are hazardous or difficult to recycle, and we can design products that are easier to recycle. And then we come to the last point, and this, I'm afraid, is my experience, and I'd be very interested to know whether it's your experience too. Producers have little or no incentive to implement these changes, which of course is why you need a scheme like C-Voucher in order to help companies get over the very serious and considerable barriers to actually enacting these kinds of changes. And that leads me really on to my last thought, which I want to share with you, which I hope will be the subject of some discussion. So next slide, please. Because producers have no responsibility for materials in their products after sale. There are some exceptions to this through extended producer responsibility schemes, EPR, and producers have no incentive to design their product for long life or material recovery and reuse, or even repair. And it's been fascinating to see how we're starting now to get right to repair legislation coming through, because for as long as I can remember, you would get these small consumer products, particularly electrical products, and the whole thing seems to have been designed for you not to be able to repair them, using screws with heads that are completely unrecognizable, where you need specialist tools, right the way through to designs where everything is covered up and you can't see what's going on. So producers have no responsibility for materials except with these EPR schemes in a limited sort of way. Consumers, of course, have the responsibility for the materials in the products they buy, and we're all aware of the amount of stuff we have in our homes, and we all experience that sinking feeling when it goes wrong or it wears out and we have to get rid of it, because that then is a nuisance for us. And when that happens, all we want to do is throw it away with as little inconvenience as possible. The result, of course, is considerable fly tipping and littering in all our countries, which makes the countryside much less attractive and can also obviously be dangerous. Waste managers have incentives to meet statutory targets, and we now know that waste managers have got these statutory targets for the proportion that has to be recycled, etc., as cheaply as possible. And in order to do that, you get mixed recycling streams, you get low quality recyclate, and above all, you get waste exports. And we know that a lot of these waste exports are supposed to be being recycled, but actually they end up in the environment of emerging economies or developing countries where they don't have the waste management infrastructure to deal with it. And in the UK, again, here we had a recent scandal where enormous quantities of British plastic waste, which was supposed to have been exported for recycling to Turkey, was actually found just lying around the countryside in very large quantities. Local authorities have incentives to meet statutory targets as cheaply as possible, and again, that results in mixed recycling streams and low quality recyclate, much of which cannot be used and ends up in an incinerator. Such an incentive structure will never achieve a circular economy. And I just reiterate the point I made right at the beginning of the presentation. It's not an accident that we find ourselves where we are, because that is where our incentives have taken us. And if we want to go somewhere else, we will have to have a fundamental change of these incentive structures. Next slide, please. And that brings me to this policy innovation idea. It's a thought experiment at the moment, though I'm hoping that in due course I'll have the opportunity to engage in some serious research around this area. But what if producers retained ownership of the materials in their products and responsibility for them at their end of life, selling only their lifetime services. So we can engage in this experiment. You go out and you buy a piece of furniture and you take the furniture home and you put the furniture in your sitting room and you enjoy the furniture. And to all intents and purposes, you own that furniture. But actually, what you own is the right to use that furniture for as long as you want to. And when you don't want to use it anymore, the firm that sold it to you has an obligation to take it up, take it back, because it owns the molecules in that furniture. What would that do to the incentive structures of material use in our economies? Well, first of all, the firms would have the incentives to get back and reuse these valuable materials and to design products such that their materials were easier to reuse. So when they got back this furniture, they would then obviously have this material that they wanted to reuse, and to develop business models based on selling services rather than selling stuff. And I'm sure that many of the businesses that I'm talking to in the C-Voucher scheme are exploring those kinds of innovative business models. Consumers would need to be given incentives to return the materials in ways that made them easy to repurpose, because otherwise the consumers are going to continue just to want to get rid of them and throw them away. But if, for example, on this furniture, you paid £50 more for it, or €50 more when you bought it, but you knew you would get that €50 back again when you didn't want it anymore, then obviously you're not just going to dump it out in the countryside. You're going to call up the firm and say, I want my €50. Will you come and take away this piece of furniture, please? So it's a kind of glorified and generalized deposit refund scheme. And as I've said, many countries have a lot of experience with that already. Waste managers would need incentives to get the materials back into use as cheaply and conveniently as possible, so that the producers and the waste managers would need to work together in order that the materials which belonged to the producers at the end of life got back and could be put back into productive use as cheaply and as easily as possible. And of course, where local authorities, municipalities organize waste collections, then the producers would need to work with the local authorities again to get their materials back, rather than these waste collections being paid out of taxes, which is what happens in many countries, where no one has the incentive to do the right thing and everyone has an incentive to make it as cheap as possible. So under all those circumstances, a circular economy becomes not only conceivable, but it becomes something that is in the economic interest of producers, of consumers, of waste managers, and of local authorities. And what we know is that when markets systematically experience incentives for them to go in a certain direction, those markets can move very fast indeed. And we would find that over a period of quite a few years, the entire structure of material use in our economies was changing in a circular direction. So next slide, please. That's it. That's something I'm hoping we can discuss, but obviously please do mention anything in your experience with the C-Voucher scheme or any of the other efforts that you're making to move towards a circular economy that you think will be of interest to other people, and which above all, as far as I'm concerned, will help me to understand a little more about what life at the sharp end of trying to move to a circular economy actually looks like. So thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to some questions.
Excellent, Professor. Thank you so much. My God, I've taken a lot of notes and there's a few questions, yes. There's one from, hang on a second, from Alexandra. I have my computer here, which she says, what are the incentives of the linear economy? But I think she meant of the circular economy. When you started, it was a question that came out at the beginning. So I think she meant the circular economy. What are these incentives? Of course, you said at the end that the circular economy is conceivable, and you didn't say with these words, but what I guess you meant is it has business sense, it's profitable. But Alexandra wants to know, what are these incentives? If it's only, I guess she means it's only economic incentives, or could there be a moral incentive, as a consumer? That's my own adding to her question. But Alexandra, if you can complete the question, but I think she meant, what are these incentives? Could you expand a bit more on that, Professor?
Sure, and I was very much, she's quite right, and you're quite right. I was talking about economic incentives. Clearly, you and I'm sure we think there is also a moral incentive, but I'm afraid one thing I've learned in my life is that moral incentives are not enough. And if moral incentives go in one direction, and the economic incentives go in another direction, overall the economic incentives win. And so we've got to get the economic incentives right. And I think if we look at the simplest economic incentive for a consumer who is wanting to get rid of stuff because they don't want it anymore, they can either just throw it out and then it ends up in a waste bin or in one of these material recycling facilities where recycling is difficult and very often it is downcycling and the material is not used to its full potential. But if that thing they want to throw out still has economic value because they paid a deposit for it right at the beginning, then of course they're going to treat it very differently because they have an economic incentive to treat it differently. At a very small scale, I remember in the UK, we had a deposit refund schemes on bottles and cans back in the 1960s. You can see I'm not a young man. And I used to go out into the countryside and collect these bottles and cans, which people had thrown away. And in this way, we managed to fund our scout troop. So the countryside was cleaner. The materials were collected and recycled because I had an economic incentive to do that. And so that is an example for the consumers. But I think much more important is the incentive for producers, because as we know, why should producers design products to be reused and recycled when they could actually make more money by designing them to be thrown away? And as we know, product obsolescence, premature obsolescence, and all that is a feature of our economies. And if they had to take those materials back again at the end of the product lives, they would obviously design them in such a way that they could use those materials again. So again, the incentives would be aligned with what increasing numbers of people know is the right thing to do, but at the moment, the economic incentives trump that sense of what is the right thing to do.
Excellent. Professor, in the same line, they're asking you, could you give us examples of companies or industries that actually are doing well in terms of incentives and are creating products or services that are replicable?
Yes, I mean, this is still very much in its infancy, this movement towards circularity, because as I say, it's still very difficult to do. But I came across, for example, a tech company recently, and this is a B2B company, so B2B is easier than B2C, and they specialize in refurbishing and then obviously reselling tech products, so ITC products, They've got a good business model doing that. They take a lot of these products out of the waste stream. It's mainly computers and tablets and that kind of thing rather than mobile phones, which are more difficult. But again, when I talk to them, they say that it's difficult because very often they don't know what's in the product because there's no product passport, there's no information to enable them to do that. But they are making a business out of it. The Finnish Innovation Fund, Sitra, recently had a project which I'm trying to remember the name now, but I don't remember, to do very much with these producer ownership models where the businesses have business models where they don't sell the materials, they sell the services from the materials. And it was a project to share their experiences to see what kind of regulations and legislation would make these business models easier to be profitable. And clearly, if it's not profitable, then it won't work. And then obviously there are a few very high profile cases of remanufacturing, companies like Rolls-Royce in the UK or Caterpillar, which wouldn't dream of selling their products because their products are very sophisticated. So they already operate a leasing system. So if you buy a Rolls-Royce engine on an aeroplane, you don't own that engine. Rolls-Royce has a service contract with you to maintain the engine, which makes sure that it works. And at the end of life, that engine goes back to Rolls-Royce. And they've designed it in such a way that the very valuable materials in it can be reused. The International Resource Panel produced a report on remanufacturing, which again, in large-scale industry is quite common. And you can find examples, for example, in Renault in France, which remanufactures quite a lot of its motor cars. So there are examples, but it's very much not mainstream business practice.
Okay. In that sense, talking about incentives as well, they ask you obviously about data. How can data help towards these incentives, and what has been done in Europe in this regard?
Yeah, well, that's a really important question and a very good one. Information, which is I prefer information rather than data, because data is just a bunch of marks on a screen. Yeah. Whereas information actually means something. Yeah. And information is at the heart of this, because it's very difficult to know what to do with a product if you don't know what is in it and what it's made of. And at the moment, companies don't really have any requirement at all to know what things are made of. I remember very much back in the early 2000s, I was a member of the UK Royal Commission on Environmental Pollution, and we were doing a project and writing a report on novel materials. And I had this idea of reusing products at that time. And we had the manufacturer of one of the leading mobile phone companies in to talk to us and give us evidence. And I put this idea to this person and said, well, if you were to get all your mobile phones back again, wouldn't you be able to reuse them? And because we know that there are at least 40 different materials inside a mobile phone, and some of these are very valuable, and wouldn't this be better than it ending up on a landfill site? And the person said, well, in principle, yes, but I must tell you, we don't know what is in our mobile phones. And this was the manufacturer of them, because when they produce a mobile phone, they don't tell the supply chain what materials to use. They simply tell the supply chain that they want a processor that will process so many gigabytes per second. And the producer then uses those materials, and the manufacturer of the phone has no idea what's in it. So getting that information down the supply chain is really important. And that's the whole purpose of these product passport ideas. And of course, with blockchain and new information technologies, it is possible to do that. So if you look at the Forestry Stewardship Council, they already do that with trees. So when you buy a tree with the, or you buy a piece of wood or garden furniture with the FSC logo on it, you know that all the way down to the tree that has been used to make that, there are certain standards and criteria that have been met which allow it to use that logo. And if you can do it for trees, you can do it for practically anything.
Yeah, in this sense, Professor, they're actually asking you about the B Corp certificate, and if that could be an incentive and used in an it is used already in an international level, but what is that, the job that these kind of certificates do, and also the role of education, how, if it's, the chicken or the egg, if we educate the population to buy and to be clients or consumers of that kind of companies, B Corp or companies as you mentioned, or if it's the governments that should educate the or the countries their population, the role, and probably this is the last question, Professor. So, role of certificates like B Corp and the role of education towards buying products and becoming consumers and users of products and services from companies like these.
Sure. No, well, all information measures that help consumers understand what they are doing and what they are buying and the kind of company that they are buying from, all those things I think are very important because they help markets work better. But in my view, voluntary certification of this kind is never going to be enough. And although the B Corp thing is fine, it's voluntary, and most companies are not B corporations, and most companies are not becoming B corporations because you need to have very special management, you need to have very special people to decide to do that, and there's very little economic incentive to do that because the consumers by and large don't think strongly enough about those kinds of things. And just as we saw with climate reporting from companies, it's not enough just to tell companies it would be a good thing if they reported on their greenhouse gas emissions. Some companies do it, and you have some success with organizations like CPD that ask companies to do it, but for as long as it's voluntary, many companies will not do it, and that puts them at a competitive advantage against the companies that do. And so ultimately that has to become mandatory. And it's mandatory now in France, it's becoming mandatory in the UK, it should be mandatory across the EU, and then it should be mandatory for all imports into the EU, in line with the kind of border carbon adjustment ideas that are coming in through the European Commission. So yes, I love these certificates, they're great, but they need to be properly policed, properly enforced, and they need to become mandatory through legislation.
Yeah, but Professor, the mindset of the population is changing. We are here. There's obviously you are a professional in these subjects, but there are more and more people through education or through, just opening their eyes and looking around and seeing what's going on in the world. And as you said, this is we have what we deserve. What we have, what we deserve. More and more mindsets are changing. Despite if everything was mandatory, it'd be mandatory, so there'd be no other way out. But in that sense, education has an important role. Do you see that mind change changing throughout Europe, at least?
Of course, education is important. I'm an educator. I have a master's program with 100 young people every year in my university wanting to learn about these things. So it's fantastic, but it's not happening quickly enough.
Okay.
Your phrase "more and more people," I've been hearing about that ever since the 1980s. There are a few advantages in getting old, but one of them is that you have a long memory, and people have been telling me more and more people are doing this since the 1980s. And we know that this is the crucial decade. If we don't get things sorted this decade, then life is going to be much more difficult for the people who come after us. So by all means, we must have education, but we also need to push people much faster than the education process by itself will take them. And I'm afraid that requires strict and stringent policy.
It's perfectly clear, Professor. As you said, little action has been done. We need to do much more. You just say this is the crucial decade. At the beginning, you start saying there's a long way to go despite what we need. You say public policy, political will, and concerted actions, and you explain us how through waste resource management focus, through consumer focus and producer focus. There's such a long way to go. And you said at the end of the day, circular economy is it's profitable, conceivable. So hopefully we're closer to the end than when we started, Professor. And we thank you so much for being with us today. Young at heart, that's the most important, Professor, like me. You said that's one of the good things of age, that we can always stay young. So thank you so much for opening this C-Voucher first day. It's been an honor and a pleasure to listening to you. Thank you to all the audience and the questions, and we hope to see you very, very soon. Professor Paul Ekins, thank you so much for everything.
My pleasure and privilege. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Well, what an honor to start this day at the C-Voucher with Professor Paul Ekins. He was pretty adamant and very clear of what needs to be done. So let's get into it. We're going to continue meeting some of those companies. He said there's many SMEs in Europe and in the world doing a good job. We're going to meet some of them in a very few minutes. We will start with the pitch competition. So bear with us for a moment and we will be right back. Yes, we are back and now we are ready to start with the pitch competition. Are you ready? Allow me to talk you through how it's going to work. We have 15 pitches that we have divided in 2 blocks. The first one is made up of 9 business cases and the second one of 6 circular solutions. We will have a 45-minute lunch break, more or less, between the first and the second group. And we have a surprise prepared for you during that break. So please be very attentive. We'll tell you more about it later. Each candidate will have 6 minutes for the pitches plus 2 Q&A, 2 minutes Q&A from the jury. Now that we mentioned the jury, I have to thank them for their invaluable job by mentioning their names. They are Jens Ingelstedt, Labs Management Manager for Stockholm, Oslo, Warsaw and Moscow area at WeWork, as well as Program Manager at Plus Impact Accelerator, Elin Bergman, CEO at CradleNet, the Swedish platform aiming at accelerator organizations and companies' transition towards circular economy, Antonio Sartal from the Economics and Business Administration for Society, aiming at unifying and consolidating the collaboration between the research groups in the field of economic and business, and Frederic Van Doors, CEO and founder of Green Innovation Group, aiming at accelerating the green transition by matching real needs in the private and public sector with innovative solutions. Thank you to all of you and bon courage. They are going to need it as they will be the ones choosing the 6 winners, 3 in each category, that will be announced tomorrow. Finally, to present the 15 pitches, we have with us one of the people that has worked with them during their business mentoring session. It is a pleasure to introduce Julien Crevassa, Innovation Business Developer at Blue Morpho, a C-Voucher partner. Welcome, Julien. Bienvenue. Bonjour.
Hi, Elena. Thank you very much for the introduction. And hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with you. And
Julien, it's all yours. Yes, he's going to be taking care of a lot of people that are coming in and out. So bear with us, please. We might have a few technical problems. You know, this is a live event. So, Julien, no pressure, but all yours. Let us know who you bring.
It will be okay, I think. So, hi, everybody. So I'm Julien Crevassa, and during this first session, before welcoming the first speaker, you will hear the pitches of the 9 circular economy champions supported in the frame of the replication program of C-Voucher. So during the 3-month program, including design and business mentoring support for the development of a business case, a total of 42 companies were supported, and now today you have the 9 top companies of this program. So the rule is simple. The 9 champions will pitch in front of you and competing for 3 prizes. And of course, you understood it. The jury will evaluate it. So further the pitches, if you have questions or if you wish to receive more information on those companies, do not hesitate to address them to me by email. My email address should pop up in the live chat in a minute. So now that is being said, I think we can start the show. So I hope you'll enjoy it. So we will start with Christian from Cirque L in Sweden, and he will kick off the pitching contest by presenting Circle's Workwear as a Service innovative approach based on circular economy. So now, Christian, the floor is yours. You have 6 minutes, and then we will start the Q&A session for your pitch.
My name is Christian. I'm going to present Circle. So we aim at challenging and revolutionizing a linear and stagnated market worth 28 billion euros. And it's the market for workwear within construction and industry. I have a pretty mixed background. I've been working as an IT consultant, management consultant, investor in startups, and a CEO of a product company. But the main reason I'm presenting here today is that I, for the last 5 years, have been renovating a summer house on the countryside. So I use a lot of workwear. And here you can see some of them. And whether I was using the cheaper ones or the more expensive brands like Fristads and Blackladder, I was always dissatisfied with them. There was always some issue with the design, the material, the functionality. But above all, I've worn out way too many pants for being a hobby builder in my spare time. So I realized here was a room for improvement, and I started to interview some craftsmen and also start to analyze the market. And yes, the workwear wear out fast, way too fast. And according to a survey we did, we found out that a construction worker wears out 3 to 5 pants per year. And considering that only in Sweden there are 800,000 workers within this area, means a huge waste of resources. Then we also found out that today's workwear wear out the workers using them. 60% state they have pain in knee and back, and that's a huge waste of human resources carrying all these heavy tools. So what we also found is that today's workwear market has a linear value chain containing too many middlemen. And this creates an expensive product, considering that each step needs its profit margin. And it also creates a complex value chain that is more resource consuming. So we realized there is a need for change, and we believe it's time to rethink workwear. And the core of our solution is modular workwear. And they are modular in 2 perspectives. First, you can detach the lower leg. And then, thanks to our patented click-side technology, you can very easily change tool holders and pouches. And this makes it possible to only replace the worn or broken part and then continue to use the rest. Further, it means that also the user can adopt the tool configuration and then change for every task, and then you don't have to carry all tools. You carry what you need and no more and no less. Let's see if this works. So, and then we will also change the business model. The first thing is that we will cut the middleman and sell directly to the end customer. And the customer in this case is both B2B customers and B2C customers, but our target is the professional B2B market. And cutting the middleman makes it possible for us to offer better and more sustainable products at the same time as we can have a transparent value chain and lower the cost to the customer. Further, we want, this has already happened within sports and outdoor. Here we have 2 successful Swedish companies that's grown very quickly. They have a great profit margin and now have received huge valuations lately. And that really shows the potential with the direct sales model. But we also, as part of the C-Voucher project, want to introduce a circular business model. So in the first step, we will sell our products through a traditional e-com solution, but we'll offer spare parts, repair service, and return incentives to make it circular. So when we get product back, we can repair them and also sell them as second hand. In the next step, we want to offer workwear as a service, meaning we rent out the product and then include plus services like washing, repair, and exchange of components. And this means that we take the full responsibility of the product life cycle, and also then we can maximize the longevity of the product and really make sustainability and business go hand in hand. So what our target is to establish a unique market position with unique innovative products and a sustainable business model. And to make this happen, we have assembled a dedicated team with a diverse set of skills. It's me, the founder, Ida, product designer and textile designer. It's Totte, who is the art director and marketing expert. And our target is to reach 10 million euros in revenue within 5 years, and at the same time have a positive impact on our society and reduce the effect of climate change. For our customers, we want to reduce the wear and tear injuries with 10% and the number of produced garments with 50%. Thank you.
So thank you, Christian, and thank you, Ludwig, for the question. Great presentation, Christian. I suggest we move on to the next feature, which is Jan from Friesen Urban Outdoor. So please, Jan, tell us more about your jackets made from fabrics 100% out of natural fibers. So please, Jan, the floor is yours. Don't hear you, Jan. Still don't hear you. Did you activate your mic?
Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are Friesen. We create radically natural outerwear. We asked ourselves, why do people who love to enjoy time outdoors actually wear clothes which harm the planet? The problem is the linear economy. We take materials, we make products, and after a short time, we already throw them away. Out of 100, at the same time, the slide is looking a little bit different than normally. The problem is that it needs a lot of water, emits a lot of CO2, creates a lot of waste, and at the same time, synthetic clothes creates a lot of microfibers. Here's our solution. It's a radically natural jacket designed under circular design principles. It's made out of organic cotton, and even the zippers and the button used for this piece of clothes are biodegradable. We combine outstanding design with functionality with our circular design process inspired by the cradle-to-cradle philosophy. You see, the share of consumers purchasing fashion or sports goods online is increasing tremendously. From 2006, a little bit more than 20% to more than 60% in the year 2019. Fashion e-commerce market is a huge market with $667 billion US. And in the year 2020, it continues to grow by 26.5%. Patagonia has been created in the 70s. It has today a second-hand store, and something which is very special about Patagonia is that they really show their honest approach towards sustainability. And through combining through combining sustainability with their market approach, which is about lifestyle clothes. They created tremendous growth from 2007 to 2018. Freisein was created in the 21st century with our bicircular approach, and we plan to have sales in the year 2023 by 3.3 million euros. We will sell our clothes through external selling platforms like Greenality and Avocado Store and Centre Commercial, and have also our own e-commerce shopping on the website freisein.com. We will support this through pop-up stores in all the major cities, beginning with Austria and then expanding to Europe. Here you see our positioning. Something which makes us really special compared to all those other companies listed in this slide is that we only use radically natural fibers. And through this, we can truly maintain a sustainable market approach. We are also creating a fabric. It's a dense woven double weave. It's 100% compostable, long-lasting, and bicircular. It is water repellent and breathable. Through the use of this fabric, we will enhance our unique selling proposition on the market. My team consists of me. I already founded a company. I founded a company who sells an organic drink in Austria, Germany, and Switzerland, which is sold in more than thousands of bars and supermarkets and is sold million-wise every year. Since 3 years, I'm working on the project Freisein. I'm supported by Dr. Barnaby Caven. He has 15 years of experience from the University of Leeds and the University of Innsbruck with working with technical textiles. And I'm supported from Lea Baumschlager. She studied fashion and technology at the Art University Linz and is herself a professional snowboarder with a good contact to the market. Our time to market is that we now are launching our first collection and the webshop in the end of this month. I will go to Portugal tomorrow to establish a larger product line. Then we are setting up the external shops. And in September, we will have primetime television, 15 minutes of primetime television, and use this to leverage our business. At the same time, we're working on the material development, and we are currently applying for the European Innovation Council, and we'll have some prototypes in technical readiness level 7 in the end of the year 2022. We raised 250,000 on funding until now, and we are searching for seed financing and impact investors. Usually there is a number in this blue case, but today not, and it's 500,000. And we need this for high-tech development, product portfolio, and the market entry. Thanks again for your attention, and I'm happy for your question, and sorry for some failures in the slide.
Thanks, Jan. It was a very interesting presentation. I know very well since we worked it a lot. Now let's welcome the questions of the jury. I have a question from Frederick. So please, Frederick.
Excellent. Thank you, Jan, for an excellent presentation. This is definitely a product that I would use. If I wasn't in space, you would see in my office, I actually have my my backpack with sleeping mattresses and tents and sleeping bags and all that lined up right here in the office in Copenhagen, so I can go outdoors whenever time allows. I'm curious to know about a couple of things. One, you're mentioning the cradle-to-cradle framework. Are you aiming to get that certification? And if yes, what's the process like? Two, you're also mentioning Patagonia that has recently moved to soil building cotton providers. You're mentioning organic cotton. Can you expand a little bit on whether or not you're aiming to adopt the principles of suppliers that Patagonia have right now?
Yes, thanks for the question about cradle to cradle. Like I was shortly presenting the concept of bicircularity in this slide, and bicircular, it's something really registered as a trademark in the European Union, and it's the combination of the technical and the biological circle, and it means that out of textile can be textiles again, and if you throw it away and in end of life, it builds nutrients for the soil. And as you mentioned, Patagonia, like they are still using a lot of recycled recycled synthetics, as far as I know. And through this, we want to differentiate from them. But we are also in talks with them. Like we reached out to their investment unit, which is called Tinchet Ventures, and they sparked some interest also for our material development we are currently aiming at. And yes, does this answer your questions, Frederick?
I was particularly interested in the cotton and your demands for cotton production.
Yes, like what we are doing now is when I'm going tomorrow to Portugal, we are working with fibers. Like this special fiber we used, it's organic cotton, but we aim to use also other regenerative fibers, and they always have to be with recycled cotton, and there are some really interesting fibers coming to the market which are already already embedded in circular systems. It means like they are already using regenerative fibers and can be fibers again and again.
Thank you, Jan and the jury. Hi again. So let's proceed with the two next presentations. So let's now welcome Eric from Graphene that will explain to us how a graphene-based technology originally developed for wastewater purification can be successfully applied to develop electrically conductive fabrics. So Eric, tell us more about this.
Thank you. I'm ready. And here comes our story. And this is a story which started with fail. We were two PhDs working during 3 years on the project on creating the innovative water purifying filter, and it was a great product. It was a product which no one needed. So we failed. We failed, and it was very hard to confess to our families, to our investors, and the most important was hard to confess to ourselves that we failed. It was extremely difficult to move on after the fail, but we had to, and we did. So we learned our lesson, we made a step back, and we started to revise the technology which we have. So what was the expertise which we learned during these 3 years? So we knew how to prepare high quality graphene materials, and we also knew how to insert them inside of the porous substrate. So we decided we keep the method, but we change the materials. So we took electrically conductive graphene and textile, a fabric. We put them together and it worked. It worked so well that we first didn't believe our eyes. Just by using water and graphene without any chemicals, no polymers, polymer binders or something like that, we were able to prepare the electrically conductive textile, which is extremely lightweight, soft, breathable, and practically invisible. All the exotic properties of graphene material were transferred to the fabric. and then taking practically any fabric and just adding 2 grams of graphene per square meter, we were able to transform the fabric to the digital textile. Digital textile with the functions such as biomonitoring, electrostimulation, heating or damage detection, body movements or gestures recognition. So we suddenly entered the walls of electronic textiles, wearables, gaming industry, virtual and extended reality, and even, please don't laugh, 5G radiation protection. We made a unique innovation for the amazing and emerging markets. Without even aiming at, we became better than our competitors. Without even asking for, we start to receive offers from the investors. We suddenly realized that we have got a chance. But we did not relax. So we consolidated our team. We started to talk to the potential customers and users of our fabric. We made our own way of pitching our product. We were not sending PowerPoint presentations or product data sheets. We were sending pieces of fabric. So our customers could test it, could touch it, could feel it, and like it. And they did. Also, we did a very clear offer to those one who would like to use our materials. We said that if you would like to use our fabric in your products, we are capable and we are ready to develop the product for you, but you have to finance this project. And by doing that, we were verifying the need on the market. We were verifying the customer readiness to pay, very clear. And most important, we were creating the niches on the market for our fabric. It was very aggressive, but it worked. We were receiving approximately 80% of positive answers to these offers after they touched the fabric. Right now, we have about 10 projects ongoing already, and this number will be growing even more. Already in August, we will be financially sustainable with the projects we already have. And as you can see, this is only the beginning of the story, so we still have plenty of chances to fail, but that's okay. That's okay because now we are not afraid to fail. Now we know that fail is only the natural step on the way to success. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Eric, for this nice presentation. It was interesting to see how you could shift your business from one to the other. I have one question from Jens in the jury. So please, Jens.
Sure. Hey, Eric. Thank you so much for a good presentation. Could you be a little bit more specific to what customers you currently have?
Absolutely. If we virtually go back to the almost the last slide of mine, I will tell you, it's quite a variety of products which we can make. For example, there is a company which is interested in fully textile heaters. So what we do, we develop such a heating elements for them. Another company is interested, for example, they are doing the smart globe. So they want to have the feedback on their fingers on how hard their customers are pressing. So we have a globe version 1 ready for them. There is another customer which would like to monitor the body gestures recognition. So there is another globe which we have, which has the sensor, fully textile sensor, which is reacting and giving electrical signal up and change it off. Yeah, that's a few projects which I can mention. I can keep talking if you want.
Thanks a lot. I suggest we proceed with the next presentation. So now let's welcome Gloria from Olbion, and let's talk about unconventional ways of producing food. So Gloria, could you tell us how your company enables indoor hydroponic and urban farming as a service, please?
Yes, I will love to do that. I'm CEO of Holbium, and I'm happy to present you today what we have done since and with C-Voucher. Our mission is, and here the layout is definitely not how it was, but our mission is to make farming a natural part of any indoor environment. And this is because we have a growing population and climate change that affects agriculture and vice versa. But here you can see how our units work at our client spaces. They use it in lobby areas, but also in their lunch rooms and in their kitchens, where their employees, for example, harvest their lunch. We came from an idea in 2018 to an MVP in 2019. And then with C-Voucher, we had 2 pilot projects with clients that are now converted to real clients. And we are part of 2 programs right now, one for the product development and one is for the business development. And we are about to order the next units, more than 30 units, because one of our clients is about to order 20 units, and this makes us very proud and is a great development since we handed in our application. One of our units can easily produce more than 2.5 kilograms of lettuce every month, and this is way more than it can produce outside, while we use 93% less water. However, the quantification also depends on how people use it, because we don't harvest just one head of salad, but the people harvest the outer leaves and then the salad continues growing, for example. More important for us is people tell us they eat more healthy because they eat when they're in the office more salad, for example. And we have 12 signed clients right now, and we have a lot of planned pilots coming soon. We are a circular company and very proud of this. And this is also very important when we communicate with clients. We have a subscription model for our businesses. So it's a B2B subscription model. We always know where our units are, how they are used, and we can also find always a new home for them. We have a modular design. You can reuse and upgrade, refurbish, etc., all parts of our units. And we have a closed water and nutrition cycle. We create a sharing and caring culture around it. People love their plants. They go there every day to see how did the spinach grow after I ate it, for example. We can do a lot of refurbishment and waste reduction by working with our manufacturer, OEM, in Skåne, and we all repair plants, all the parts of our products. Looking at the competitors, of course, there are a lot of B2C hydroponic systems and also industrial size one outside urban areas. For office spaces, you have, for example, Naver air purification and also traditional plant leasing companies. But when it comes to eatables, yeah, okay, you have a coffee machine and you have a fruit basket, but there's no more. What we do is we merge the functionality of hydroponics with interior design to bring additional value to the people. And this is also what our clients love so much because it's a multi-sensory experience. Looking at the market, we started in Stockholm because here the companies are very aware of sustainability. The total market worldwide is huge, and we have a very versatile product that can be used not only in office spaces, but also in schools, community buildings, and more. But for our target market right now, we are looking at Stockholm because this is where we want to grow with our clients, learning more, further developing the product, etc. And if we continue working here, we can easily have 2,000 units in place, which makes us profitable because all of installation in itself are already profitable after a few months. As I said, now we are doing sales. So for us, it's now we have a product in place. Now we need to bring it to our future clients. And we receive a lot of interest in it. We are offering pilot testing for our clients. And this is also where we would use your support. we want to bring it out to let people see and test it. We are doing product improvements right now, minor mechanical changes, and we are about to order next batch. And we need new marketing materials because all our marketing material is from the MVP. So we will use your support to improve that as well. And next year we can scale to other urban areas such as Göteborg or Berlin. And this is all possible with this great team that changed a lot in the last month, but now we have all skills from product development to finance, etc. And I'm about to hire now the head of sales to further increase our activities there. Thanks to all our collaborators such as you, C-Vouchers and Impact Invest, for example, and we are proud to be part of Klimatpakten, the Climate Pact of Stockholm, and further bring our product to the people. So thanks to you, we developed from MVP to a stable product with a circular concept that is very much valued from our clients. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Gloria. And sorry all for this little technical issue in the middle of the pitch. It's not real live experience if we don't have technical issues, so that's completely fine. It was an amazing presentation. We have a question from Antonio in the jury. So yes, Antonio.
Hello, Gloria. Congratulations for your presentation and for your company. I like the presentation a lot. Could you give us some examples of the typology of the final customer that buys the loop, and in which countries?
Now we are only active in Stockholm. Our typical client is a company that has already a sustainability strategy, wants to bring sustainability closer to their employees and visualize their efforts. It can be an office hotel, it can be, for example, we have a financial company, but more important for us, Skandia Fastigheter, which is a real estate developer, is one of our clients. So they are testing it now to then have a rollout in their buildings, which helps us to do sales, of course. We want them to grow with them in their buildings.
Okay. So let's take a second question from Frederick, please.
Cool, thanks Gloria. That was an excellent presentation. I really like the product. I've been following hydroponic and aquaponic systems since they came about some 15 years ago. I'm curious to know what is the actual sales, what does it look like if I want to purchase one for my office? How much do I pay? How often do I pay it? And what do you take care of for me?
So first of all, I would invite you to come to our showroom in Stockholm because our product really needs to be experienced. You want to smell it, you want to touch it, you want to see it. And then I would talk to you like where would be the perfect spot in your office. It's probably in your kitchen if you want to have salads, for example. This one is not in the kitchen, but here we have herbs that you have in your water. So I would make you an individual offer depending on how many people there are in your office, how you want to use it, etc. The starting price, 1 unit, is 2,800 crowns per month. We have different subscription models. It can be 24 months or it can be a rolling subscription. And of course, we give discounts when you have more units. We target companies that have at least 3 units at one location.
Thanks, Gloria. So I suggest we welcome the 2 next speakers. So I will ask the audience for a few seconds.
Thank you, bye.
Bye. Once we set up the presentations, and we will come back to you in a second. So Anne, as you understood, we'll talk to you about textiles, and especially textiles made from hemp. So Anne is managing director of RBX Creation in France, and now Han, you can go.
Okay, sorry, thank you. So textile is a highly polluting sector, and whether it is the issue due to washing our synthetic clothes or the hydro extracts from cotton agriculture, it's easy to understand that a big part of the problem comes from the materials. So regarding climate change, 38% of the apparel and footwear greenhouse gas emissions comes from material production, way ahead of transport, for instance. In this context, our mission is to set up efficient ecological solutions to change for good the textile industry. And for this, our unique value proposition is versatile and performant biomaterials, trackable from the agricultural field with measured, improved impact on the environment and society. The materials that we develop fall into the category of man-made cellulose fibers, MMCF in brown here, the third fibers group of an overall 111 million megaton sector, dominated by synthetics in orange, mainly polyester, then cotton in dark green. Man-made cellulose fibers, in purple here, have become the fastest growing fibers group. It is expected to further grow and gain cotton market share due to the cellulose gap, which is the increasing demand for textile that other fibers, especially cotton, cannot fulfill because of limited resources such as water. This benefits MMCF as they come from a renewable resource, cellulose. Cellulose is the main component of plants and now mainly taken from wood. But the sourcing faces traceability, even deforestation issues, such as these eucalyptus monocultures in Brazil instead of rainforest. So the art of our project is to produce man-made cellulose fibers from an alternative source of cellulose, hemp. Hemp is a resistant plant which grows quickly, about 4 months, without irrigation, chemicals, or GMO, while regenerating the soils, improving the following crop yield in rotation, and massively capturing carbon. We rely on a growing sector as hemp is more and more cultivated. As you can see, it's not working. The surfaces, oh, it's working. The surfaces in Europe, with France in blue is the first producer. Hemp sector is driven by food and cosmetic markets as hemp seeds, rich in protein and omega, meet the rising demand for healthy plant-based food. And hemp oil is also favored for cream, soap, etc. Once the seeds are harvested, we collect the crop's byproducts, which are the stalks. Farmers sell some of them for construction applications, but most remains unused. So in a circular new approach, with the goal to both strengthen the farmer's revenue model and optimize the use of arable land, we decided to valorize this unusual feedstock. Thanks to technology, we transform it into versatile high-quality materials, far from the traditionally made of hemp textile, hence the irony. Irony is our registered trademark to designate these new materials. We've developed our own patent-pending process to extract pure hemp cellulose, which is then turned into man-made cellulose fibers, filament or staple fibers, suitable for the regular textile machinery, spinning, knitting, etc., for various end products. Our first life cycle assessment, it's not displaying well, but shows here the low footprint in light blue of our irony materials compared to wood-based in yellow. This is a strong competitive advantage as the textile market is increasingly looking for low-impact materials, especially the signatories of the Fashion Pact, which are companies in luxury, sportswear, retail, etc. And thanks to our successful lab-scale prototypes, we've already secured confidential partnerships. What attracts the brand is that irony is a both environmentally and technically reliable alternative to the materials they commonly use. So we are already moving to pilot production, and then our ambition is to industrialize with partners for an upscaled commercialization. Setting up a plant with a production capacity of 10,000 tons per year will be the reference in high-quality hemp cellulose materials, and target in priority the clothing, technical textiles, and non-woven. This will secure a resilient supply of strategic materials from the top of the supply chain, while bringing also benefits on the agriculture. The founding team is Char, technical expert. He created the clothing brand Gorfu, and the sourcing issue he faced led him to invent our hemp transformation process. And myself, his sister, former consultant in business, project management expert, and president of the Nouvelle-Aquitaine Hemp Association. Our ecosystem is all along the value chain: Chanvre-Méloir Farmers Group, the ITF, European #1 textile research center, our partner since Elite EU program, and with whom we were awarded last week, a specialist in machinery, mortar and repair, manufacturers such as Weaver Emmanuel Lang, and clothing and footwear brands such as Veja. And we are also supported by various public structures. To conclude, hemp is a vital plant to face the environmental challenges, and with our disruptive circular approach, it's also an opportunity for sustainable business. So let's get on board and join our pre-industrial development. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne, for your presentation. I think we have time to take one question from the jury. So far, I don't see any member of the jury. So
I have
no
a question. I just wanted to let someone speak.
Yeah.
So hello, my name is Frederick. Thank you for a great presentation, and I've been following the development of hemp, especially for clothing fibers, for quite a while. I'm curious to hear more about your business experience. What kind of sales have you had, and what have they bought, the ones that bought something from you?
So because we are doing hemp textile is in a totally different way from the agriculture and in the fibers that we produce, which are suitable for the most widespread textile machinery. We are at the moment, we have done some lab scale, and this had led us to some first sales for the pilot productions. But
so the sales are pilot developments. It's sort of like a scientific collaboration. What is the typical deal size there?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
What is the typical deal size? Can you give a range? Are you dealing with €100 purchases or €100,000 per purchase?
100,000.
Okay, thanks.
Just quickly, a question from Ellen.
Yes, hi, thanks for a great presentation. I'm just wondering how recyclable is the material once it's been used? And are you working on that part as well?
Yes, so this can go back in the process and be turned again in man-made cellulose fibers. We can just produce it again from the hemp cellulose. And also another possibility is for isolating, thanks to the properties of hemp in this application.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Anne, and thanks to the jury for interesting questions. I suggest we move on with the next presentation. So bye-bye, Anne, and hi, Gaurav. So, hi. So you're from Renotech, you're technology manager at Renotech, a company in the field of construction industry, and you developed the solutions related to smart materials and 3D printing solutions. And I think you're here to present us this solution. So now the floor is yours.
Thank you, Julian. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gaurav Das from Renotech, Finland, and today I'm going to present our green solution, construction 3D printing. In our 25 years in the construction industry, we have found a big problem. There is 950 tons of construction waste per minute produced in the EU. That's 950 tons. And by the time the pitch has ended, Europe has produced 5,700 tons of waste, 5,700 tons. So it is clear that there is high carbon footprint and wasteful practices in the construction industry. Since we are in the specialty construction area, we know there are big challenges to create complex textures and objects without wasteful approaches. Example, if you want to create a stone sculpture, you need a stone carving machine which chips away stone bit by bit and consumes a lot of energy. So, subtractive manufacturing is a source of waste. The cost of conventional construction increases exponentially with increase in geometrical complexity. This is very important for specialty construction, but it remains flat for 3D printing. So our solution is construction 3D printing with smart materials. Compared to subtractive methods, you can print items with zero waste. And the combination of smart geometry and smart materials gives you new products with advanced functionalities. Now, what are smart materials? Well, they are basically stimuli responsive materials. Example, self-healing materials, which gives indefinite lifespan. Bioreceptive materials, which acts as carbon sink. It's not working. Our solution is smart and circular. Firstly, we use 50% less raw material for our production. We use construction 3D printing, which is a zero waste process and which uses 99% less energy compared to plastic printing and metal printing. Our final products have smart geometry and indefinite lifespan. And at the end of life, they can be used in artificial reef, providing carbon sink, or used as aggregate in concrete, hence completing the circle. Our unique value proposition is that we are the world's first sustainable smart materials and products powered by construction 3D printing technology. Our solutions are 50% cheaper due to low raw material usage, zero waste costs, and less energy. It's 80% faster due to automation, and it's 90% better due to the new generation smart products which comply to existing market regulation and value chains. This is very important because when you need your first customer and industrial traction. There are various use cases, example, marine applications such as artificial reefs and shore walls, terrestrial application, example, houses, interior built items, pillars, etc. And special application, example, acoustics and damage resistant items using smart materials. The market is estimated to reach 40 billion exclusively for 3D print, construction 3D printing by 2027, with growth of about 100% year on year. The key markets are the European Union, the United States, and Middle East. Our business model is print as a service, printer and part reselling, and technology and R&D, including smart materials. There is competition from both large and small companies in EU and globally, but the large construction operators are focusing on creating bulk 3D materials or large-scale construction of houses, etc. Smaller startups and SMEs, they are focusing on niche markets. We at Renotech are a pioneer in smart materials. Our differentiator is the use of smart materials because it is an area big companies don't want to do and other small companies don't have the know-how to do. Our vision is to become a leader in specialty construction 3D printing in Europe with a focus on smart building materials. We have had good traction since January. We have identified first and second wave customers in January with the help of a C-Voucher program, which was going on then. We have received first customer order worth 500,000 euros in January, and agreements with suppliers and technology providers have been signed in February. We are a team of 14 dedicated and diverse staff. To conclude, green tech and circular economy acts as key competitive edge to lower cost and increase margins. C-Voucher program has been instrumental in development of our business case, our pitch development, as well as identify unexpected circular economy innovation, not one, but 3. In the next 4 to 5 years, we would like to sell 3D products and services worth at least 1 million per year, turnover to increase by 50% from present. We are looking for EU funding and industrial partners. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gaurav. It was a lovely presentation.
Thank you.
We have questions from the jury. Let's kick off with Ellen.
Yes, hi, thanks for a great presentation. I was just wondering, you're talking about smart materials, but what is it made of? What's the building blocks? If you can just give me something. It's hard to see if it's a good environmental material if you don't say what it is.
Well, the first thing is smart materials, as I mentioned, they are stimuli responsive materials. So basically they are functional building materials. So you have, for instance, concrete or clay as a base material, which is already used and accepted in the industry. But then depending on the application, you can have functional properties. For instance, self-healing materials. So you put certain additives and you tweak the chemistry so that it becomes self-healing. For instance, it can be done by using additives which sort of get activated when there's a crack in the material, and it releases certain microbes or certain, let's say, chemicals which ultimately become calcium carbonate, which is of course not harmful or anything, which basically fills up the crack. You saw in the picture there was like a white, so it was filling up the crack with calcium carbonate. That's number one. That's one example of terrestrial application. Another example would be this bioreceptive materials which acts as carbon sink, example for marine application. So what do we do? One very good example of C-Voucher which helped us see is we saw, or we found out how we can use carbon capture, carbon capture technology, taking carbon from the air and integrating it into our products and making them bioreceptive and using them for final purpose. Example, we were thinking of making marine application as artificial reefs. So they are basically houses for fish, and they are a carbon sink, and they increase biodiversity, etc. But what you need is you need to have the surface pH quite low, much lower than concrete can provide, like in a short time. So what we did is that we captured carbon from the air, so the carbon footprint is decreasing, and it makes the surface basically bioreceptive, which means fish, marine plants and animals, they can survive and thrive there. So these are very green technologies we have been using to do that. Of course, we have our radar in also other, let's say, smart materials, which is antimicrobial materials, for instance, but nobody has done the 3D versions of those, some versions for the, let's say, virgin ones are available, but we are the first to be looking into the 3D ones. So I hope I have given you some light. Of course, this is a broad area. That's why we say smart materials, and I gave example of just two, marine and terrestrial. If you have more questions, please feel free to.
Yeah, but so the basics is normal concrete, not recycled concrete or anything. It's just normal concrete on the basis, and then you add some additives to it.
Yes,
Right.
we add some additive to it that gives indefinite lifespan. But if you want to use, let's say, recycle one, in our product we can use recycled concrete as a crushed aggregates, I would say. So that is one, of course, that is. But again, it depends on the application, But ours is the smart materials, and one of the things is that when you use this bioreceptive one, so let's say you have made a 3D printed product, and now let's say for some reason you want to get rid of it. It has indefinite lifespan. But if you use it as artificial leaf and basically drop it in the sea, then you are using that concrete in making new products instead of using virgin material. So in that way, we are circular. So it really depends on application. There is no hard and fast fixed area.
Yes. Thank you, Gaurav, for the extensive response and very complete response.
Okay.
I suggest we move on with the presentations. So we will leave you for a few seconds while we welcome the two next speakers of this pitching competition. So thank you, Gaurav, and stay tuned and stay up. We will come back very soon. So, hello again, everybody, for these pitching sessions of the circular business case. So now we have with us Razvan from Taylor Studio that will explain how the brand Nedea created a circular wood value chain enabled by digital technologies. So now, Razvan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Julian. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Razvan Vâlceanu. I'm from Romania, and currently I'm based in Apuseni Mountains from Transylvania. Before relocating here, I was mostly flying between our offices in Manchester and Bucharest, being actively involved in ecosystems for circular economy and future of smart clothing. Cooling down the lifestyle has brought me a reconsideration of priorities, and it made me realize that before you go into the future, you have to be more aware about past legacies. For instance, if you search today for wool discarded as waste, you will find that many people also search that, but you don't necessarily understand what caused the present need of wool disposal. The wool decline began after the middle of the past century when the synthetic fibers emerged, promoted as cheap, convenient, and fantastic lighting plastics. It turned to be not fantastic at all. What used to be an important income for farmers is now waste that is burned or buried. even worse, without conditions for farmers to sell on modern markets. The middlemen are fixing the prices and they are making the largest profits. In response to these needs, we shaped our solution on site in face-to-face meetings with farmers and manufacturers. Nedea is an online platform that connects the wool community. We upgrade the traditional wool supply chain using latest digitalization, blockchain, and e-commerce software. Wool is recovered and processed to become capitalized as circular products. We pay fair prices and eliminate the middlemen, disrupting the status quo with a triple-win solution for wool growers, textile industry, and end users. This year, we started to collect wool in Romania in parallel with due diligence audit of manufacturers. Our revenues will come from three streams: free access on a marketplace for wool products, paid access, and reselling our intellectual property rights on non-chemical wool treatments against moth chewing. Our cost structure includes storage of raw wool and improvements like sorting, washing, grading. We already store approximately 200 tons of wool with a market value of over 1.5 million euro. Profits are reinvested in training and education for young farmers and artisans. We've already identified very promising market niches for our rescued mountain wool. Last year, the global textile market had $1,000 billion, and according to Ellen MacArthur Foundation, will almost triple by 2050. But you can see here on this pie, this isn't happy growth because most textiles are based on fossil synthetics and water-intensive cotton. We sell to consumers and companies, offering them access to local raw material with authenticated and continuous quality. For brands, turning waste into end-user products provides an authentic and original narrative. We stand out of the crowd with short, local, and more profitable supply chains. Due diligence data is offered freely and transparently. We manage automation and digitalization on behalf of farmers. We also bring non-chemical innovative treatments to improve wool's unique properties such as thermoregulating, absorbent, pressure resistant, biodegradable. Wool is not a fast fiber, but a slow manufacturing one. Our go-to-market strategy follows same calm product development cycle. We've created market strategies with our suppliers based on feedback from piloting customers. We use different brands for each niche. In some cases, the brands existed already, like Lana Tern for insulations and Native Sheep for wool fertilizers. Sales will be primarily made online, and offline we will address the larger companies. This is me in the left corner, a former general manager of a multinational software company that in 2013 left to launch a brand of made-to-measure shirts. And nowadays, together with my colleagues from the board of advisors, interact with great tech partners like Empower from Norway for blockchain or National Physical Laboratory from UK for lab validation. I would advertise that we are the kind of diverse company where you may interact every day with a sheep shearer, a data scientist, or a PhD textiles engineer. And so, in conclusion, we spent huge resources to reach and validate our circularity with all stakeholders. We have strong support from local authorities, but so far we're just warming up. Next, we'll register the patent for innovative wool treatment and we'll launch a rebranded website to support our first crowdfunding campaign. If all goes as scheduled, we'll start fundraising, being interested in angel, pre-seed, and seed investor types with a potential market value of 2.5 million euro. And not lastly, being a social company, we are interested into into setting up a school for shearers and technicians to properly train the future workforce. At the end, thank you for your attention. Special thanks for the C-Voucher organizers. Here is my email address, and I'm here for your questions.
Thank you very much, Razvan. It was a very, very interesting presentation. So let's take one question from the jury. Please, Frédéric.
Hey, Razvan, thank you for the presentation. It may be just me that needs coffee, but I had a little bit of a hard time wrapping my head around the circular side of this business. Can you please elaborate on the circularity perspectives in your business case?
Yeah, it's like starting with recovered waste wool that is currently transformed into products, and then it's reaching end users to be either recycled or biodegraded. So this is like the process.
Thank you. Since we all know that we are a bit running out of time, I suggest we proceed to the next presentation, and I would like to thank Razvan for the presentation and for the answers to the question. So now I will introduce Shurjia from Think Biosolution. Shurjia will present his solution for preventing chronic conditions by using remote patient monitoring technology, and everything with bringing circularity into it. So please, Shurjia, tell us more about the project.
I just want to make sure the clicker is working, and it is. Oh, there's a lag.
So we see your
solution. Yeah. Okay, I can start now. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. My name is Dr. Shurjia Sanyal, and I am the CEO of Think Biosolution. Can you imagine a world where people do not fall sick? Our digital health platform tries to achieve this in two ways. We use remote monitoring to detect chronic conditions before they're actually felt by patients. And two, we deploy digital therapeutics to treat patients in the mild stages before the patient's quality of life is affected and the cost of care skyrockets. In our target patient population, that is adults over 65, 83% of patients develop a second or third chronic condition within the first 3 years of being diagnosed with one condition. We prevent this from happening. The standard of care for high-risk patient populations, such as geriatric patients, is still limited to annual checkups, which often fail to detect mild conditions. In the last couple of years, remote monitoring companies like Vivify Health and Health Recovery Solution has become mainstream in US and Europe. The main bottleneck with remote monitoring is that it needs physicians, which time is very expensive, to analyze vitals and symptoms to detect mild conditions. We solve this challenge by using our AI-powered risk indicators to automatically analyze changes in vitals data over weeks and predict the onset of mild conditions before they're actually felt by patients. And the other kind of competitors are digital therapeutics that are treating conditions in chronic conditions in severe and critical conditions. We are the only company treating diseases using digital therapeutics in the mild condition. And we combine both the sides of the challenge. So our current product is the chronic disease prevention platform. Nurses use our cardiac detect and hypertension detect modules to automatically detect mild symptoms and delay the onset of 6 hypertension, stroke, and cardiac conditions. Our platform, as a result, gives 18 times return on investment compared to 6 times given by our competitors. Also, it integrates with existing infrastructure, such as electronic health records, and allows us to deploy this in less than 48 hours. In 43% of patients, our platform detected a pre-existing mild conditions, which they did not know about, within the first 30 days of use, which is never heard of before in the industry. So key decision makers in the marketplace believes that this is going to be a game changer, as it is easy to deploy, reduces staff workload, and gives big return on investment. We have done pilot launches of our existing platform with 4 commercial partners, and 956 patients achieved an annual recurring revenue of $408,000 and are currently fulfilling payment orders worth $2.4 million in the next 12 months. So our go-to-market strategy is to first enter the long-term care market in the US. Each partnership is worth about $2.5 million and will help us achieve 20 million in sales by end of 2022. After this, we'll work with pharma companies to turn their drugs into digital therapeutics, $25.5 million per partnerships, and $280 million in revenue by end of 2025. After this, we'll work with health insurance. So till that, We have got FDA CDSS clearance for our chronic disease platform. We have a strong portfolio of patents, both US and Europe, and we have strong industry partnerships with electronic health records. We have also got multiple competitive investments, about $1.1 million from organizations including Luminate New York, C-Voucher, and DGB Cuban Enterprise Ireland. So we have the IP and are awaiting FDA 510(k) clearance for our Quasar device. So the Quasar device is replaces 8 different kind of medical device. This is our keystone, our unique selling point in the health insurance marketplace. And our circular economy idea is to do a product lifecycle extension of our Quasar medical device by making it modular along the lines of Fairphones. Before the C-Voucher grant, Quasar device was designed for manufacturing using the take, make, dispose approach, which no repair and reuse modalities. With C-Voucher grant, we have verified that making it modular will increase the product life cycle from 2 to 4 years and will allow us to reuse the original device in developing economies at 50% of the original cost. As a part of the C-Voucher project, we have also identified the biggest challenge with the circularity solution will be setting up the supply chain. Kaushik and I have both co-founded companies and exited startup before. Dean is our director of sales with 20 plus years of experience and $50 million of sales under his belt. And Professor Derek O'Keefe is our chief medical advisor and has successfully launched multiple digital health products. So we are currently raising a $9.2 million, and the C-Voucher has actually helped us close the first $3 million as of last week of this money, from 2 US VCs. And in the end, I would like to thank you for your time. Keep safe, and I'm here to answer your questions.
So thank you very much, Shoria, for the presentation. It was an interesting application of circularity, also possible in the health sector. Again, I will take one question from the jury. So please, Frederick, I see that you have a question.
Excellent, thank you. That was a very, very interesting presentation. I work a lot with the health tech sector, so this really sparked my curiosity. We know that there's approximately 88 million medical devices going into the EU market every single year. Do you think that it's probable that you're going to be able to actually reduce that by replacing those 8 devices that you just talked to us about with your single device?
Exactly. So we have worked and talked with 5 major health insurance companies, including AXA and Regional Health in Germany, Italy, and Ireland. As a part of C-Voucher, we had a letter of intent from them, and they believe that, yes, so we should be doing about, in the next 3 years, about a couple of million units in Europe, which would mean that instead we'll go from 10 million, so we'll reduce wastage of what 10 million devices would have produced to now 2 million because of this combined device. And thank you for pointing it out. Yes.
Huge fan. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shoria, for your presentation. It was very interesting.
Thank you, Joey.
Hi again, everybody. So let's conclude the session with the last 2 pitches of today. So now let's welcome Johanna from Traceless Material, and let's talk about bioplastics. So please, Johanna, could you tell us why your material is called Traceless?
Thank you, Julian. Hey, my name is Johanna, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Traceless, Materials Designed for Nature, a circular bioeconomy startup offering a truly sustainable alternative to conventional plastics and bioplastics, with a mission to solve the global plastic pollution. Because currently there is no plastic alternative on the market that considers all impact indicators while at the same time being competitive in quality and price. And that is what we are solving with Traceless Materials. With Traceless, we go beyond even the sustainability of conventional plastics, bioplastics, from bio-based to using the residues of the agricultural industry, avoiding the food conflict, and from industrially degradable to actually compostable in the environment. And this compostability you can see here. Here, I hope. This compostability you can see here at the example of our rigid material on the left that completely degrades within the time span of a few weeks without leaving any trace, hence our name, Julian. That is possible because Traceless has been designed for the biological cycle. After their use, products made of traceless materials degrade under natural composting conditions, becoming an organic nutrient for new plants again. At the same time, Traceless is storage stable and provides a lot of the beneficial properties of plastics. All this makes our materials applicable for a wide range of applications. Long term, we want to substitute plastics in applications that can easily end up in the environment, such as packaging solutions, single-use items, and products with high abrasions where microplastics end up in the environment, as well as coating and adhesive solutions. Our technology, filed for patent, makes the manufacturing of our materials much less complex, much more environmentally friendly, and in the end, much cheaper than the conventional production process of bioplastics. With our materials, we can offer customers product choices that go beyond the offer of our direct competitors in their sustainability and thereby help them expand their market growth. As our materials are neither chemically modified nor synthetically polymerized, they won't fall under the EU Plastics Directive, and thereby we can offer an economically feasible solution with huge scale-up potential. In a first step, we focus on disposable packaging, with 40% of all plastics produced currently being used as packaging, and these products being the #1 contributor to the global plastic pollution. We already developed first prototype for an e-commerce packaging and will bring it to market in a first pilot next year. We have huge ambitions to scale up our operations fast and answer the customer demand, as well as maximizing our market share, but ultimately making the biggest possible contribution to solve the global plastic pollution. We are starting now by developing first prototypes with our customers, creating demand. We'll bring them to market in first pilots by next year as proof of concept, and will ultimately offer our materials as a drop-in solution for the plastic converting and packaging industry at a price competitive to virgin plastics in the EU. As part of the C-Voucher, we found that integrating our processes with our raw material suppliers, we do not only support the development of cross-sectional circular value chains and strengthen the growth and competitiveness of the EU agricultural industry, but assure the usage of the exhaust heat of their processes as energy source for our production, maximizing circularity. Through and since the C-Voucher, we furthermore, here we go. Through the C-Voucher, we furthermore improved our business case and focused our product offer for first market entry, delivering our first paid prototype and gaining over 30 new potential customers, strengthening the collaboration along the value chain, starting 5 pilot projects with converters, and won the Green Alley Award for Circular Economy Solutions. Sorry, that was too fast, and closed our first investment round. Luckily, my co-founder Anne and I do not do all of this alone. Despite having founded the company only in September of last year, we already gathered an amazing multidisciplinary team that will help us to grow Traceless fast, and we are supported by an amazing institutions and networks. As a team, it is our mission to solve the global plastic pollution. Until 2030, we want to produce over 1 million tons of safe packaging, preventing the use of 820,000 tons of fossil fuels and 820,000 tons of plastic production, preventing any land use change and over 100,000 tons of plastic in the environment, and saving in total 5.5 million tons of CO2 emissions. So we invite everyone to be part of the solution, not part of the pollution. The market is ready for a holistically sustainable material like Traceless. We have the right team to bring our solution to market fast and thereby help Europe to become a pioneer for truly sustainable plastic alternatives. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Joanna. It was a very inspiring presentation, and we really see how it solves challenges we see around us. We have one question from Jens, so please proceed.
Thanks, Johanna. Thanks for a great presentation. It's first of all, super interesting space. I'm working quite a lot with startups in the packaging space, and yeah, the market is screaming for solutions, right? So if you can prove that you have a working solution, it's a good place to be. My question is the production side of things. Can existing producers use existing equipment to produce your solution?
Yes, so we have already shown first in implementation and the application of our material of existing industry machinery. However, we're obviously further optimizing the further production of our materials with packaging converters and the plastic converting industry right now, and first pilots with our partners.
Thank you.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup, Julien Crevassa, and the 9 companies that have pitched this morning in a very challenging pitching competition, not only because it's always very, one gets nervous to be in front of a jury, a live jury, and we had a few technical problems. Julien, you did a great job. Sorry, I just want the audience to understand that having live the pictures, the PPTs, and the jury coming in and out, it's quite complicated. Behind the scenes, there's a lot going on, so thank you to the technical team that gave us all this support. They've been suffering, but the pitches were fantastic, very inspiring, as Julien was saying. A lot of them, most all of them, giving us great solutions. So we'll see you later, Julien. I'm just gonna remind the audience that, well, this was the first 9 business cases pitches. We hope you enjoyed them and took good note. As Julien was saying, we have a 45 lunch break, which our jury will use to deliver it. So I'm sure they've taken very good care and very good note of what was going on this morning. During this time, don't relax too much, because you will be able to win 2 tickets to attend the 4 Years for Now 2021 conference, you know, the startup side event of the Mobile World Congress that will take place in Barcelona at the end of June. Yes, I'll be there, by the way. So I hope to see 2 of you. What do you have to do to win those tickets? Well, it's very easy. First of all, you have to be a member of C-Voucher community. You can register, and you will find 2 activities to choose from in that community in order to win the tickets. They're both easy and fun, you will see. You'll find out at the C-Voucher community. You are not registered, don't worry. In the chat section, they were actually updating it now. Within Hopin, you will find a link where you can click, and everything will be explained there. You can register very easily, and you find the 2 activities in order to win these 2 tickets. Follow the instructions, and good luck, of course. In the meantime, enjoy your lunch, and see you back here at 13 hours, Central European Summer Time, at 1 p.m. See you later. Welcome back to our second half of this first day at the Circular Economy PowWow, brought to you by C-Voucher. Before the lunch break, we had the opportunity to listen to 9 business cases pitches of the 15 companies we have brought to you today. We will listen to the next 6 now. As before, each candidate will have 6 minutes for their pitches, plus 2 minutes Q&A from the jury. So let's go ahead with the 6 circular solution pitches that will be introduced, as before, by the Innovation Business Developer at Blue Morpho, Julien Crevassa. Julien, welcome back.
Hey again, thank you. I hope you had a nice lunch and that you are ready for the second batch of finalists in this C-Voucher project. So, as Elena said, I'm Julien Crevassa, and I will be again moderating the second pitching sessions. So, this time you will hear the pitches of the six circular economy champions supported in the frame of the circularity program of C-Voucher. In this program, a total of 12 companies were supported for 9 months, including design and business mentoring support, to, in the end, develop their circularity solution. So the rule is simple and is the same as this morning. The 6 champions are pitching for 3 prizes. and their pitches is listened and evaluated by our outstanding jury presented by Elina this morning. But I can remind you that it's composed of Jens Ingelsted from WeWork, Elin Bergman from Stradenet, Frederick Vanders from Green Innovation Group, and Antonio Sartal from Economic and Business Administration for Society. So for the pitches, if you have questions or if you wish to receive more information on those companies, do not hesitate to address them to me by email. I will type my email in the live chat. And now we know what will happen in the coming hour. I think we can start with the first pitcher of today, who is Björn from Artex in Sweden, but currently Björn is in Spain. And he will kick off the session by showing you how Artex managed to save money and to reduce CO2 emissions related to train seats manufacturing and refurbishment by reusing the generated waste in other applications. So please, Björn, tell us more about this, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. What you need to know about Artex is that we do produce a lot of new things. We produce furniture and items for the automotive industry. However, we also do big-scale refurbishment of conference halls, offices, etc. So we combine this, new products and also big-scale refurbishment. But now I want you to go with me into the world of public transport, and more specifically, trains. What you should know about trains and buying trains is that if you buy a train, you intend to have it living for 30 years. After 15 years of use, you do something called a mid-term refurbishment. This is important to remember. Mid-term refurbishment after 15 years. Because then lots of things are worn out in the train. We work with refurbishment of interiors of trains. Or more specifically, we work with seats in the trains. And you should know that during 8 years to come, there will be 2 million train seats exchanged in Europe. 2 million train seats, I say it again. So, earlier, 5 years ago, there was no alternative for those owning trains when they were to exchange the seats. They had only as an alternative new ones. So there were competitors there, but no one was refurbishing. But we took our competence from other things refurbishing and put it into the train sector. So we employed engineers, craftsmen, chemists, etc., because this is rather sophisticated, and started to refurbish trains and refurbish seats. And for the environment, this was a great benefit. I used the item carbon dioxide equivalence. I think it's terribly tricky to say, but I hope you know it. And a new seat compared to a refurbished one, it takes 60 kilograms less carbon dioxide equivalence. However, presenting the same comfort, the same security, the same devices. But not only the environment gains on this, there's also a big financial gaining. The difference in between a new seat and a refurbished one is around 800 euros. What does this mean in practice? Yeah, in our market now, being only 5% of Europe, 5% of Europe is Sweden, we have 3 big fleets in-house that we are refurbishing. One fleet is of 27,000 seats. Another one is of 20,000 seats, and the third one is 16,000 seats. But let us together use an example of a fleet of 10,000 seats. Those are many in Europe. There are many fleets having this amount of numbers. In this case, that would mean that the public transport authorities do huge savings financially, but also can present for the public, us, big savings for the environment. However, we still have an issue. And that is that we together, we, Artex, create waste. Because of course there are old foams, fabrics, velcros and other parts that was burnt. creating 180 tons of carbon dioxide equivalents. But throughout the C-Voucher, we could try a hypothesis. First, we had the possibility to do a prototype. And I think this is one of the most important pictures in this presentation. To the left, you see the foams and the fabrics going into being grinded into grains. And in the middle, you see the grains being compressed to foams. And to the right, you see room dividers. We produce in Arctics 50,000 room dividers and sound hampering devices each year. And we could use this compressed foam directly in our production. So C-Voucher helped us to do this prototype, make it see it's possible. But waste is not homogeneous. So we also had the possibility through C-Voucher to invest in a laboratory where we can monitor durability, comfort, and fire resistance continuously as the waste changes. These were the two benefits with the C-Voucher. We made it possible. So we can supply ourselves. This is approximately our supply and our demand. Supply of grains and demand each year on our small market. Totally circular now. And we go for 3 of the most important UN nations goals. I would say 13 being the most important of these 3, being spreading the word, because we have always lacked practical examples. And the business model, still under the development, gives 40% to 50% gross margin, but saves the environment 1,200 tons a year in only our small market. The solution is truly scalable because the industry looks the same in Germany and France. And there are still many seats to exchange. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Björn. So 6 minutes sharp. So it was a very interesting presentation, and we keep discovering what we can do with waste from any industry. We'll welcome some questions from the jury. Any questions so far? So I have a question from Frederick.
Hey Björn, thank you for a great presentation. Really good job on making this quite comprehensible and understandable. It's not really clear to me if Arctics is a major corporate or if it's an SME. Can you elaborate a bit on that, please?
We are an SME. So we are not a major corporate. We're an SME, however, we are growing as we have gained bigger business. We are in the process of becoming bigger. But we are in the process. Yeah, that's what we are.
All right, thanks. It was really convincing. Great job.
Okay, we have a second question from Antonio.
Okay, congratulations for the presentation. My question is how to access to these byproducts, how to process them. You don't explain this in depth in the presentation.
How we are processing the foam, the compressed foam?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
To obtain. What is who is the provider, the supplier?
Yeah, no. So far, what we have done now, we have had a prototype through C-Voucher, and we have used a sub-supplier. But now we have applied for state funds to make an investment in machinery ourselves. So what we have shown by the C-Voucher help is that it's viable, it's possible, but we are in the process of investing, and all these flows of these enormous amounts of scrap has not yet started. It has started, but not to full volume. So we've been preparing this for 4 years approximately. But now we see this is viable, it's possible. So we have applied for funding, doing it in reality. But we can also buy it from a supplier. Okay. Was it answer to your question?
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, Björn, for the presentation, for answering the question. We will now welcome the next speakers, but hi again, we're back with you to learn about the other circularity company of C-Voucher. Let's hear now the pitch of Lopianco by Desislava. So Lopianco has a bioraffinery approach to produce high-value products for the textile, food, feed, and cosmetics markets from silkworms, but also other raw materials. So please, Desislava, could you please tell us more about this?
Yes, hello, thank you. My name is Desislava Dimitrova, and I'm the CEO of Lopianco company. Our story started with the mulberry leaves, silkworm's favorite food, which helped my mother successfully treat her serious digestion problem provoked by the use of antibiotic treatment. Next slide, please. After the serious research, we found that silkworm pupae have extremely valuable nutritional characteristics. They contain 98% pure protein and can be transformed to silk protein powder with specific treatment. Leading scientists help us create a product that could be used in the poultry cultivation in order for antibiotic use to be avoided in their daily feed, and thus help people with who consume chicken meat avoid my mother's bad experience. Next slide, please. Unfortunately, in the EU, many people die due to antibiotic resistance, one of the reasons being that 70% of the chicken meat produced in the EU contains antibiotics. Next slide, please. Our company launched the AgriGaia project to establish a circular innovative industrial enterprise for organic silk and waste products as high quality secondary raw materials. This is the full cycle you're seeing here. Next slide, please. Circular economy approach was applied in the full production process of organic silk, which resulted in an unexpected effect with a widely diversified portfolio of biologically clean and biodegradable products. Next slide, please. From one of the waste streams of the silk production and with the financial support of the C-Voucher program, the innovative ZooBioMix product was created. We passed the clinical trial process, made a prototype, and tested the product in a real environment. Next slide, please. We use our knowledge and experience from the C-Voucher program and thought about the improvements for ZooBioMix product, which led us to the creation of new one, which is a leaf to biotic. This new product is based on mulberry leaves. The clinical trials show that our new product can be used for all poultry, turkeys, geese, ducks, quails, and others. Moreover, we are using the same technical equipment in the production process. Next slide, please. The achieved progress for ZooBioMix is related with a jump from TRL 6 to TRL 8. The innovative drying technology allowed us to increase the shelf life with 6 months. In addition to that, the new equipment has improved the characteristics of the product, preserving almost 90% of natural substances. We signed a contract with the Union of Poultry Breeders in Bulgaria in order to start selling our products. And just recently, we received an order from a Greek company for 5,500 kilograms of silkworm cocoons, which will give us profit that will support the pilot production. The pandemic helped us decrease our operational costs as well, like working online, accounting services. We are not using transport, etc. And at the moment, we're working on the CIFA project, which is similar to the C-Voucher program. The main goal here is to prove that the silkworm pupa is very suitable as food for astronauts going on space missions. The achieved sustainable impact is due to the 25% reduction in energy used by the innovative drying technology and 20% decrease in feed costs for farmers. There is a positive impact in increase of resource efficiency and significant reduction of CO2 emissions of around 28%. Next slide, please. You can see the industrial symbiosis here. After waste processing, we have products and materials that serve as an input raw material for other industries. These waste stream conversions give us new products as secondary materials, like silkworm proteins, sericin, and biomass. Next slide, please. The forecast for the market for feed probiotics in the poultry meat sector in the EU is estimated to be around 40 million euros by 2024, and our goal are to have a 6.8% share of this market in 2-3 years. Next slide, please. The pilot production of the new product leaf tubiotic is planned for the second half of this year. There is an expected European regulation allowing the use of the silkworm pupae for feed, and it has not entered into force yet, but the new product will compensate for the lack of profit from zoobiomics. The break-even point for all our products will be achieved by the end of 2023 or in approximately 24 months. We have secured 51% of the pilot production of the zoobiomics product and 45% for the leaf tubiotic. In case we are awarded, this amount will help us with the production of the leaf tubiotic product and prepare samples for our new partners in Poland. Next slide, please. We must remember that our health is strongly related to the food we consume. Food without antibiotics will give us a better chance of dealing with future pandemics like COVID-19 by boosting our immune system. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Desislava, for this presentation. It was very interesting. I'm pretty sure the jury has questions, and of course, let's kick off the Q&A with the question of Eileen.
Thank you for a fantastic presentation. But it was a bit unclear to me, the circular system. I understood the industrial symbiosis part a bit better, but when you said it, the product itself is circular, can you explain it a bit better?
We're starting the production of raw silk, the fabric, and because probably you know that this is very complicated technological process, old one, so we transform this production process into new one with using a lot of Internet of Things, automatization processes, new technology. So from this primary production of raw silk, we have two streams of waste. One is the silkworm pupae, and the other is water waste stream. So we are working at the moment with one of the waste streams, this silkworm pupae, from which one the C-Voucher help us to make the zoobiomics product, and by ourselves we are using the entry material, the input material for the raw silk production, which are the mulberry leaves, in order to close the full cycle. So we are using this mulberry leaves to create the new probiotic. So we have now already two, and we're working on third one at the moment. But the point is that the C-Voucher program helped us a lot how to create new products and the whole procedure that we need to pass. So this was very successful for us, for the company, for the future profits, and to make the first circular decision for the textile industry, because you know the silk as a raw material for the textile industry is irreplaceable material. There isn't nowadays no one material that can replace the raw silk. Unfortunately, it was very complicated to be produced in a sustainable manner. So we found that way in order to use all the waste and convert it into new products and materials for other industry, where is coming the industrial symbiosis.
Thank you for the answer. Let's quickly take another question from Frederic.
Cool, thanks, Desislava. That was very interesting. I'm curious to hear if you have thought of other application potentials besides the poultry industry. Boston Consulting Group recently expected us to hit peak meat by the year 2025. So are you not afraid that you're addressing a market that will be diminishing on a relatively short timeline?
With these two probiotics we have for poultry at the moment, we are going to enter in the market till end of this year. And at the moment we are starting the trials, clinical trials for piglets and for cows. So this solution will be at the beginning ready in 2022, when the new regulation to ban of antibiotics in the European market will enter into force.
Thank you. So thank you, Desisla, for your presentation and answer to the question. I suggest we proceed with the next presentation. Bye-bye, Desisla. And to welcome now Caterina from Station in Romania that will talk to us about the first fashion factory of the future, implementing digital approaches such as robotics and AR, VR. So could you explain how, thanks to all of these technologies, you bring circularity in the fashion industry?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. I am Caterina Iliese, the founder and CEO of Cati Fashion, an innovative SME from northeast part of Romania, in transition from traditional unsustainable business model to zero waste in garment design and manufacturing towards care business model. Next slide, please. Our vision is to develop a digitally enabled, smart, circular garment design and manufacturing infrastructure to fashion factory of the future, where each style is digitally validated on body avatars, virtual prototyped in collaborative sessions between team members and in real-time decision-making with clients, followed by the on-demand manufacture with most viable, smart, circular, zero pre-consumer waste production method. Next slide, please. Why? Because fashion is considered the second most polluting sector globally, and we identify that on average 40% of material waste is generated in traditional cutting and prototyping and manufacturing, and this is the problem we want to address with our solution of zero pre-consumer design and manufacturing, pre-consumer waste design and manufacturing. For a sustainable fashion market that increased 5 times in the last decade, reaching $5 billion market value in 2019, greatly incentivized in 2020 by COVID-19, by the shift in consumer behavior, consumers now were searching for more sustainable garments choices. Next slide, please. Our development and managing team is mostly women. 3 generations of textile engineers continuously seeking most viable, ethical, and sustainable development path. Together, we drawn the transformation business canvases plan, including the agile principles and tools with the aim to integrate entire Cati fashion team for most beneficial for all transformation path. Next slide, please. So we set a realistic timeline of transformation starting from 2019 by integrating the 3D technology in design and product development, followed by testing and validating the new 3D services with most relevant current clients. And currently we develop the digital twin between the digital validation of styles and factory floor, where further we are willing to introduce the AR/VR technologies, artificial intelligence and machine learning, predictive analytics data, and collaborative work between human and robots for complete development of digital, smart and circular fashion factory of the future till 2027. Next slide, please. Thanks to C-Voucher, we've been able to accelerate the implementation of the 3D technology and launch the zero waste services, which brought immediate positive sustainable impact by reducing the pre-consumer's waste from 30% to 10%, aiming from 0%. But most important, we were able to reuse the digital libraries of body avatars, pre-shaped virtual prototypes, and most currently used fabrics and styles features, which gave us a greater return of investment by 25%. So being one of the winner of C-Voucher at beginning of 2019 was an absolutely great help in accelerating the transformation and implementation plan. Next slide, please. And if today we will win this competition, we will use the prize value outside with our own resources to get the most out of the 3D services by acquiring Clo 3D program to develop 3D runway shows as a sustainable alternative for traditional fashion shows and accelerate the ER/VR technology integration for creating the virtual areas for remote collaborative work between interdisciplinary team and in real decision making with B2B, B2C meeting with clients. Next slide, please. Thank you. Next. The step-by-step transition is supported by an ecosystem of partners brought together in a different European project that share same vision and the interest to close the loop, creating a circular fashion value chain at European level, offering real sustainable solutions for brands and manufacturers, having at the core of this partnership Katie Fashion with competitive advantage of building on 2 decades of expertise and excellence in offering seamless process of design, product development, and manufacturing. Next slide, please. In a steady, real, and agile strategic and implementation plan to fashion factory of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Katerina, for the very inspiring and interesting presentation. Let's take some questions from the jury, if we have them. No question. So everything is okay then. So thank you, Katerina, again for the presentation.
Thank you as well.
We will wish you the best for the future. And now we will have a very short break the time we introduce the 3 last speakers of this circular solution pitching sessions. So stay tuned. We'll be back in a minute. Hi again, everybody. So we are now with Maxime from Planktonid. And Maxime will explain how Planktonid offers solutions for the decentralized wastewater purification, allowing at the same time the production of biostimulants from microalgae. So please, Maxime, can you explain how wastewater from the production of fertilizer can be treated to produce new fertilizers with the help of microalgae?
Hello, everyone. Everybody must understand that the life science need to be an integrated part of the circular economy. And water matters enormously. So the 21st century faces some important challenges. And to solve those challenges, we need new solutions, new approach. And Planktonid has a solution to offer. Microalgae are still untapped resource, but it has a huge diversity, and it exists in all ecosystem. Like plants, it uses sunlight, and about 50% of global CO2 is fixed by microalgae, which make them very important. But as well as an opportunity, there are a problem. And the problem are the toxic bloom that you have maybe seen during your summer holidays by the sea. And this is on those 2 respects that Planktonid need proposed to act. So we've been acting with our partner Yara France to protect the Loire River near Saint-Nazaire. And Yara France is a perfect partner. It's a big fertilizer manufacturer with huge demand for water treatment. So with this partnership, we've been able to address key UN Sustainable Development Goal, notably regarding water, ocean protection, water treatment, and global warming. So we use CO2 and we use wastewater, and this we turn them into something valuable. Plus, it requires no arable length, which is also interesting. So with this process, we have two products. We have clean water and a biomass. And in terms of clean water, it allowed to respect the EU directive. And in terms of the biomass, you got a sustainable crop, which is has a high vegan protein content and some antioxidants. The global market for wastewater treatment is dominated by a few giant utilities with a moderate growth. So we are not new entrants on this. We are new entrants in niche markets in the wastewater treatments. Those are biological wastewater treatments, notably to do with reducing nitrogen and phosphate content in wastewater, and decentralized, which is on-site, too small, relatively small, demand. And those are the huge demands that is yet unfulfilled, and we have a solution there. So our solution fits anywhere. That's why it's great for decentralization. And it's easy to integrate into an industrial space. And it needs to work on its own. So it offers a level of autonomy. And we demonstrate with Yara an ability to really treat very high level of pollution in the water successfully. So with this water treatment, basically, those are the traditional biological solutions, and they use basically microbes mostly, and they have a higher energy expenditure for oxygenation and a lower efficiency in terms of nitrogen, total nitrogen fixing, reducing in the water. Our solution, planktonids, is sorry, a little bit of a delay. Our solution, they basically use sunlight, or mostly LED light, to reduce with a higher energy efficiency and a higher rates the nitrogen. So with the biomass on the other side, the second product, there's many applications. Mostly it's been energy for microalgae, but with the combination of wastewater, we can also furnish bioplastic feedstock as well as a biofertilizer, but it can also be used to extract high-value compounds such as antioxidant and protein. At first, we've been focusing mostly on biostimulants, and this has a huge demands. Biostimulants basically are used to improve plants and flower resilience as well as growth. And it's a really growing market with a huge demands. So, and it commands also a higher price compared to fertilizers. So in those two products that we sell, we have on the wastewater treatment to provide clean water, we can lease the solution, but mostly we will build it as a service. We'll also operate it. On the product side, for the biomass, we can serve as an intermediary to sell the core biostimulants if this is okay with the user. But if there's a direct local use for the biomass, then there's no need for this intermediary role. So basically,
Maxime, could you
we have Christian, which is we'll say a microalgae whisperer, and he's got decades of experience working with microalgae, and he's a leader chief scientist chief. We've been also working with Denis and Max and me.
Thanks, Maxime. We have to cut your presentation. I asked you to conclude because it was a bit longer, so sorry for this. We will take the time we have to take the questions of the jury. So I don't see any questions so far. If one of the members of the jury wants to ask a question, please go ahead. If not, I suggest we thanks Maxime a lot for the presentation. It was really interesting, and we move to the next speaker, who is Benjamin from Pixo, that will talk to us about packagings and that will present his solution addressing the challenge of single-use packaging in the food industry. So Pixo is an open platform structuring a new supply chain for reusable packaging. And now, Benjamin, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. So due to some technical issues, I will have to ask for a slide, for moving on from slide to slide. So I'm Benjamin, the co-founder of Pixo. Next slide, please. Pixo is a company I founded with my associate François. We met each other on the banks of École Centrale Paris. We made the first project together, and then we went a different way. I went into artificial intelligence, and François was at McKinsey in logistics, supply chain, and cost optimization. In 2018, François contacted me and told me, I have a huge problem about disposable packaging. I'm a surfer and they're like everywhere on the beach, so we need to find a solution to solve that. Next slide, please. The problem we address at Pixo is that every day in France, 36,000 tons of packaging are thrown away. It's as much weight as 5 Eiffel Towers that are thrown away every day only in France. Our vision at Pixo is that tomorrow, all this disposable packaging will not be recyclable or compostable. They will be actually reusable. And actually, the law is on our side because in January 2023 in France, all disposable packaging will be forbidden, in some sectors of the restauration industry, which concerns companies such as McDonald's, which has to invest more than €700 million to make this change. Next slide, please. So these big companies face different problems from moving to disposable packaging to reusable ones. The first one is they have to manage new financial drivers. Basically, when you have disposable packaging, you buy one from 20 cents and you have this price put up on the end meal price. It's easy to manage. For reusable packaging, you buy a reusable packaging like €3 and you have to amortize it for along 5, 10, 20, 30 cycles. You don't really know. So it's an unknown and hard to manage for restaurants. Next, you need to handle next slide, sorry. Back to the previous slide. So next problem, you need to handle a new supply chain with washing centers, logistics, and collectors for the reusable packaging. And finally, you need to make it as easy as possible for the end clients to use, you and me, when we buy something to eat at the restaurants. And if it's too complicated, you won't go. Next slide. So what is Pixo? Pixo is a central data platform that brings together the whole reusable ecosystem. Basically, we manage pool of reusable containers that are connected. Each container has a unique ID. And we gather the data about our reusable containers all along the supply chain. Basically, a supply chain for reusable containers is composed of a washing center, a distributor, which has the clean containers and pack them for the end clients to use, basically restaurants, and the collectors, where the people drop their dirty reusable containers that are collected and brought back to the washing centers. At each step, Pixo gathers the data and use them to handle stock management for our clients and make sure that we don't lack any reusable container all along the supply chain. We make sure that our banking partners that handle the deposit system. What is a deposit? It's something you pay your end user to make sure that they will bring back the reusable containers. And with these banking partners, we tell them when they need to bill the end clients or when it's okay actually because the client brought back the containers. And then we handle all the logistics partners to make sure that they do the right round management, the right, rounds around the collectors to collect everything and bring them to the washing centers and bring the clean containers to the distributors. Next slide, please. In terms of business model, okay, so sorry for the presentation again, technical issues. In terms of business model, we have two main business models. The first one is any entity willing to connect to our infrastructure and benefit from our ecosystem of washing centers, collectors, logistics, reusable containers need to pay a fee for that. For restaurants, it's around 600 euros per year per restaurant. And next, we have the transaction fees. Every time a reusable pack does a full cycle from clean to clean on our ecosystem, we bill the distributor, basically the restaurants, for the usage of these clean containers. It goes from 1 cent per pack per cycle when we only handle the data to 10 cents when we own the containers and rent them to the clients. Next slide, please. Over the last 12 months, basically our pipeline of clients really grew a lot. We signed the biggest player in the market, such as McDonald's and Sodexo. We are working with food techs for food delivery and click and collect. And our team is growing very, very fast to sustain our growth. Next slide, please. Yeah, that's why right now we are raising funds and looking for new financial incomes, such as this opportunity with C-Voucher, to make sure that we can make sure by the January 2023 ban in France, we have locked all the biggest players that need us to change from disposable to reusable packaging, and we are actually expanding already all around Europe because similar laws are actually pointing their nose all around Europe. Next slide, and I think this is the end, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Benjamin, for this amazing presentation. It was very interesting. We have one question from Frederick in the jury.
Thank you, Benjamin. That was an excellent presentation. Thanks a lot for that. I'm really curious to know if you have any idea what is the environmental footprint compared to one package delivery from you, and you can assess a lifetime value and then compare that up against the existing alternatives. Are we actually saving CO2 here with all of the logistical play going on, bringing the reverse logistics, washing, cleaning, redistributing, etc.?
Sure. So we did a full life cycle analysis by an independent consulting firm, actually, to make sure that it was better. It's far, far, far better. Basically, you, for instance, you save up to 500 kilograms of CO2 every time you use a reusable packaging instead of a disposable one. It's the equivalent of 5 kilometers by car every time you use a reusable packaging. Why is that? Actually, the new supply chain you are seeing is not something you didn't have for disposable packaging. For instance, for compostable packaging, you need to harvest some sugarcane fibers from South America.
Do you know how many times is this based on? How many times of reuse for this case to work? Is that using the packaging
4 times.
8 times? 4 times. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Frederick, for your question. In fact, thank you very much, Benjamin, for your presentation. We will introduce our last speaker, but before welcoming in, we will have a short break, the time we connect its presentation to the feed, and we will see you in a few seconds. Hey again, and welcome to the last pitch of today and first day of Circular Economy PowWow. So Jasper, it's now your turn to introduce WexCon system and how you want to bring circularity in the construction industry. So Rexcon is a load-bearing, long-lasting, and cost-effective modular and reusable wall construction system. But I'm pretty sure Jasper will tell you more about this now. So the floor is yours.
I will. Thank you. First of all, my name is Jesper Sørensen, and I'm founder of Rexcon System, which is a manufacturing company within the construction industry. Our driving motivation, let's see if it works. Okay, our driving motivation and concern is our planet, and the way we utilize it is over its bearing capacity year after year. The term is called Overshoot Day, and it marks the day we crosses a sustainable utilization of its resources. Sadly enough, this happens earlier and earlier each year. It's a delay. So what can we do about it? We asked ourselves and had a profound look at the construction industry, which is responsible for over 1/3 of the imprint on our planet. And then we asked, are we as a human species building too much? Should we build less to lower our imprint? And how does that harmonize with an ever-increasing world population? Our conclusion was no, we shouldn't build less. We simply just don't build sustainable enough in correlation to our population growth and the living standards we have. Maybe recognize this scenario from your local roads, newly produced building components transported one by one to its destination. It's emission heavy and costly. The end scenario for such building components is likely to be as waste for energy recovery as its best. So to really make an impact, we have looked at options such as carbon storing rather than carbon emissions, and the use of renewable resources rather than the limited and scarce ones, and the design challenges and options of such circular designs. And by the help and support from the C-Voucher program, we have succeeded. We now manufacture 2 fully developed building systems which have carbon storing capacity, are made of renewable sourced materials, and is designed with multiple use cycles. Zooming in on the reblock, you will see that it is designed to fulfill all requirements set for a modern day building product. The same goes for all products we develop and manufacture at Rexcon System. We use a modular design philosophy to achieve super high system flexibility in all our product designs. A similar design philosophy is also applied to our products when it comes to transportation. All of them can be flat packed into Euro pallets during transportation, meaning that 6 pallets of reblocks delivered is enough to create the exterior walls of a 140 square meter housing, rather than having several deliveries made by the usual way. The shown example is a 2-day build for a 2-man team. It is as simple as flipping out the flat pack blocks and stack them like Lego blocks one by one. And when built up, all of it can be cladded and finalized both internally and externally by basically any type of claddings. It's a user's choice to decide. The market we are addressing is a market for family houses and holiday homes. It's a market which has grown by 75% over the last 10 years. In this market, we have architects, privates and corporates and municipalities as stakeholders, which all are starting to act by more and more sustainable agendas in correlation to a globally enforced green transition across all industries. We do see the architects as our key stakeholders in the markets. These are the regions we see as our key markets, as they have similar building traditions and climates favorable for wooden construction systems as ours. They hold 190 million square meters a year of building components, which could be exchanged into ones with a carbon storing capacity rather than a carbon emitting capacity. Talking about carbon storing, it is wood-based construction method as ours, which can truly pivot the carbon footprint of a construction into a negative figure. The resources we use are not found here, but here in the forest, where we can keep renewing the resources year after year. It's as simple as that. Our methodology disrupts nowadays waste-generating methodology. We not only make sure that our components stays in a circular loop, We also jumps a few steps of the value chain and rely on direct reuse with a minimal interference from one project to another. We call it circular business at its best. This means we will loop our products from one project to another, from its first use cycle to its second, to its third, and so on. At each loop, we will sell, take back, and resell the components again and again, and even split up taken back building sets to create new projects with the modular components. We will use these three financial models to underpin our circular services: lease, rental, and buyback. And not to forget, all the aforementioned product capabilities supports the issuance of building certifications as these. They're globally acknowledged building certifications, which has proven to create high market values and a shorter lay period for the certified buildings. Our next step plan is to finalize the CE marking of our products, which will enable us to access the Scandinavian and European markets, and after that, over time, help us to expand to the US market. This is our team, which is surrounded by our diverse advisory board of industry experienced veterans from various places in the value chain. And a quick sum of our value propositions: we use renewable resources in our products, we offer a minimal transportation volume, a super fast build pace, and waste reduction via circular design, and a very simple construction methodology. Plus, we support these 9 sustainable development goals in our workings. Thank you for your time. And remember, we only have one planet. Let's care about it.
Thank you very much, Jesper, for the presentation. It was very interesting, and it was, as I said, the last one of the day. I will take one question from the juries, from Frederick, so please.
Yep.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Jesper. That was really, really impressive. I think that you speak to a lot of us here that grew up with Legos with that pitch. I think it is an extraordinary idea to lean more on the air structure also in the Lego bricks and to see that in the wall material. That was really cool. I was wondering how do you see your role in the ecosystem, as the most circular building is of course the one that is already in existence, that we don't have to construct new buildings. So essentially you are going to go into a market that is inherently unsustainable. How do you address that?
You're completely right, Frederick. It's more sustainable to use the buildings that we already have. The way I see it is also in a perspective that we are a growing world population. There will be an ever-increasing need for more livable spaces. So why not create those spaces via circular designs? Is that answer enough, Frederick? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I buy that.
Thank you very much, Frederick, and for your question, and Jesper for your answers and presentation. It concluded the dispatching session and the pitches of today. So thank you very much, Jesper, again, and thank you to all of the speakers of today for your presentation and your pitches. So now it's time for the jury to deliberate on this second slot on which will be the winners of the 3 prizes. Again, the winners will be announced tomorrow at 11:45 a.m. CEST, so stay tuned. Before leaving you, and since we are talking about circular economy and impact, I would like to invite you also to participate in Blue Morpho's Impact Week 2021, which started last Thursday with the Catch and Do session on the construction industry. It's good that we are talking about this now. And it's an event partnering with the Circular Economy PowWow as well as the EU Green Week. Our next session is actually on Thursday at 11 a.m. CEST. And for 1 hour, Andrew Shannon, partner at Circularity Capital, a venture capital dedicated to circular economy, will share his insights on the challenges and opportunities to invest in circularity. Next week, on Thursday, also, we will have EIF talking about economic, social, and environmental benefits of impact investing. And we will also have other speakers such as Patagonia that were mentioned this morning in a pitch, or also Arjo Wiggins. So I will copy the link to the full program in the live chat after seeing this, so you can access it and register to the session you want to attend. Do not hesitate, it's totally free. So it's now time for me to leave you and to thank you all. Thanks C-Voucher, thanks the companies for their pitches, thanks Funding Box for inviting me also to host this session, and I wish you all a good circular economy PowWow. Thank you, bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Julien Crevassa. Merci beaucoup. He's done my job so easy today. Tomorrow I'll have to work much harder. He already said thanks to all the companies that pitched. Best of luck for tomorrow. As he mentioned, we will have the results from the jury's decision tomorrow in the second half of the morning. So we'll have to wait until then to find out what the juries decided. Until then, thanks to our participants, speakers, internal team, and technicians behind the cameras for making this first day a reality. It has been difficult. We had to cope with a lot of technical difficulties, but I'm sure you understand that it's not easy. Also, have you participated in our competition? Because 2 of you will come with me to the 4 years for now, so don't forget. We'll also announce that tomorrow. And a special thanks to you, of course, the audience, because you are the reason why we are all here. So remember, we will be back tomorrow at 9:45 CST, Central European Summer Time, for our second and last day of this year's edition. Stay safe and goodbye. See you tomorrow. Bye.